Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I just had to click one button. That was it.
That's okay. I've been up since 3:30 yesterday, so
I apologize.
no, that's fine. Like I said, usually what happens is honestly that's what they do. They like to join in, so they usually mess with my audio or video, or they'll actually end up showing up and doing stuff during the show. They like to be active participants, so I figured maybe that's what it was.
So, is the house that you live in haunted?
Yes,
Okay.
it's more me, but I brought my friends with me, so they're here. But I don't think it was haunted before I moved in. So
I understand. Where I live is haunted as well. The land I live on is haunted, and I also have haunted dolls.
I was gonna say that you got the dolls behind you. Those are interesting.
Yes, especially this one.
Oh yeah, that get a little weird vibe off of that one.
Yeah, me too. I definitely think she's a dark one. I don't think it's a she, but that's what they say they are. And we are here with Kevin Killen. Did I say that right?
Yes.
And starting off, can you introduce yourself to everyone and tell them a little bit about you?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. It took a long time to get here. uh, so, uh, so I live in Maryland right now. I'm, if anybody's familiar with that, I'm near Ocean City. So I'm near the beach, but I don't live on the beach, so I'm not a beach bum. I live close to the beach. Let's see. I was actually born in the Philippines and raised in Northern Virginia. So I've been a writer most of my life. I was a journalist. Right now, I'm actually doing other things away from that, but I am the author of this book. This is the auto. This is the audio version of it, Ghosts and Me, and that is available on Amazon and also ozarkmountain.com, which is my publisher's website. So basically, I've had experiences all my life with the paranormal, and I continue to have them every day, pretty much. So that's kind of my story.
Can you tell us about the first experience you had?
Sure. I lived in Evanston, Illinois, in one of those big, creepy old houses from the 1900s, and I was about 5 years old. And me and my mother were home by ourselves, and we were down in the living room, and we heard footsteps upstairs. And I had said, "Who was that?" Because I knew nobody else was here. And my mother said, "Oh, that's just my little boy." And I don't understand what she meant by that because I was the only little boy in the house. But it was distinctive on the wooden. It was wooden floor, so you could distinctly hear those footsteps. So that was my first experience, and I've had experiences ever since.
How did you feel in that moment?
I didn't really feel anything because I was so little. I didn't really think about it. And like I said, my mother reassured me with that whole, that's my little boy. And for some reason, that did reassure me, and I was fine with it. But yeah, I didn't like it. Didn't scare me or anything. It was just kind of just on to the next thing.
So, can your mother see spirits?
I think my mother had some ability. She's passed by now. But she had abilities, but we never really talked about it. She passed before I wrote my book, so we never really talked about it. But there were some things growing up that leads me to believe she had some sort of ability. So I think she did, but we never talked about it.
And would you say that you have some ability to see and hear spirits?
Yes, I'm an empath, so I feel a lot of emotions, and I've heard spirits, I hear spirits, I've seen spirits, I've seen shadow men, things like that. So yeah, I have some ability, I think.
Well, I think that's great, and I think it's funny because one thing we have in common is we both are able to see and hear spirits, and then not only that, let me change this lighting because that's not doing it for me. Not only that, but I was actually grew up in Virginia as well.
Oh, what part?
Norfolk.
Okay, okay. I was north, you were south.
Yep.
Ooh, awesome.
So Uh, did you ever hear anything or see anything other than the footsteps when you were little at that time?
No, that was really the only experience at that time. I do remember I had a very vivid dream around that same time. I we had like the second floor where we heard the footsteps where all the bedrooms were, and I had this weird dream that I was actually at the bottom of the steps, and all my stuffed animals, and I didn't even really have that much, all walked down by themselves because we had like an attic on the third floor, and they walked down like by themselves all the way down to where I was on the first floor. And I just remember that vividly. That it was just the weirdest thing as a little kid. I was like, wow, what's this about? But other than that, those are like the two experiences I really had. I think as a young child in that house.
Um, and other than that, what was your next experience?
Um, I didn't really have anything until later on when I moved to Virginia. I in high school I really got into the EVP. So when I was in high school, I started recording stuff at the cemeteries and things like that. So I got a few interesting captures, but not like when I in the early '90s, and I'm going to date myself here, but in '91, I actually and my house was really busy. We had a lot of people, and I had three brothers. They had their friends. I had my friends. So it was a really busy house. So this one particular night, it was actually empty. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and record and see if I can capture. Because I'd having experiences all the time in that room that I stayed in. So I went ahead and hit the record button and said, if there's anything here, please show me. And went to a friend's house for about an hour and a half. Came back, rewound it, and right at the end of the tape, I got a lot of activity and this creepy voice that says, I have shown you, ha ha. And that scared the hell out of me. And I ran outside literally because I knew I was the only person in that house. So I don't know what that was that said that. I don't know to this day, but that's really kind of what kicked it off as far as me getting into the paranormal.
And so that's like what boosted you to going into the paranormal.
Yes, that really made me wonder like what is going on, and let's see what we can find out.
So what got you into the idea of, okay, let's trying to capture this EVP?
I had read a book by Augustus Rodive or Rodive. He had actually recorded birds in, I think, Hungary, maybe it was Germany. But anyway, in the 60s, he actually recorded in the forest, he was recording bird sounds. He ended up getting a bunch of voices and he didn't know where they came from. So he wrote a book about it. So I actually read that. And that was like really, really clear EVP, early EVP captures. And that really got me excited. And I was like, wow, if this guy can do it when he wasn't even trying, what can we do when we do try? So that kind of like piqued my interest.
Okay. And what experiences did you have at that house?
Mainly footsteps. Like I said, it was a very busy house, and there was a lot of negative energy because we had a lot of there was a lot of problems in the house with my family. So there was a lot of negative energy. So it was what I call in my book, I call it a sad house because it really was. It was very sad. It was just a very dark, sad place. It was kind of like the wet blanket.
Mhm.
It was just it was always heavy. It just even when it was sunny, it just never felt like there was anything but negativity in that home. So most of it was just basically footsteps. There was some slamming doors when people weren't there, but mostly it was just footsteps in my room. And at that time, I had actually gone to, I was actually getting it more and more into the paranormal, so I was reading more books about it. There weren't any shows really about it yet, so it was basically that talking with friends. I did use a Ouija board, things like that. So I think some of that was already there, and some of it I think I did bring in.
And so what did you use exactly to capture your first EVP?
Okay, so people in your audience, if they can remember back in the day, I had a big boom box and it had a dual cassette, and it had what was it? It had the detachable speakers, and I just put in a Maxell 90-minute tape and hit play and record, and that was it. So
And
it
I bet
was
you heard it clear as day too.
absolutely, that's the best capture I've ever had. And I've used three or four different kind of recording devices. That is the best EVP I've ever had since then.
So, can you tell me, now we talked about you living in Pennsylvania. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. I went to school in Pennsylvania. I went to college there. So that was really interesting because that was where a lot of my experiences happened, where I actually started becoming more self-aware of what was going on. At the time, actually not at the time, but a little later, maybe about a year or two in that I was there, I started dating a psychic slash witch. So that was really interesting because she taught me a lot, and I learned a lot from her. And I moved into a haunted house, and that was interesting because it was a classic haunted house where the guy had died there, and me and my roommate were about the same age, so we were in our 20s. So he would slam doors and open doors and close them when nobody else was there, just to basically check on it. And that's what she told me. I said, "What's going on here?" And she was like, "Well, he's checking on them. He wants to make sure you guys are taking care of the house because me and my roommate would never have experiences together, but when we were home alone, we'd always have the same experiences, and then we had to compare notes."
Oh, wow. T Tell us more about the experiences that you had. And what experience did she have and that y'all had in common, or maybe it was separate?
Yeah. So usually what had happened is we had like you walk in, you had like it was kind of a weird house. It was a one level house. It was basically a ranch. So you had side doors. You didn't really have a front door. It was kind of like you used the side door, we would use the front door. So once you came in, you went in the kitchen area. The kitchen area led off to the bathroom. So the bathroom, we'd hear the bathroom door close all the time, and we'd think, okay, somebody came in. It's my roommate. His name was Brian. I was like, oh, it's probably just Brian. So I just, be in my room doing whatever and just think it was him. And then I wouldn't hear anything for like 10, 15 minutes and think, geez, is he okay? I'd go in there, nobody's there. The door's open, nobody's in there. And I was like, okay, this is weird. And that happened quite frequently. And it happened when I was not there, and it happened to him. So that was one of the experiences we had. We'd always hear the door open from the outside, and we'd think somebody was coming in. Then the bathroom door would open and close, and it was never anybody there.
I just want to say, I feel an energy to the left of you, and I
Mm-hmm.
did see something. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
if I think I saw the camera capture it, but I'm not sure if it was just my eyes that let me see it, but
Yep.
something black glimpsed across the right
Yep.
side of your screen.
Yep. That's what happened the last show that I did. The same thing. The host kept seeing like black shadows behind me, and I said, "You'll see that throughout the whole." That's because they're behind. I can feel it. Right, my back's getting cold.
Yeah, on
They're
the
here.
door
Yes,
side
that's and
too.
this is what happens. Yes, to the left of me, which is the kitchen area. I got my arm up over here, but yeah, that's like again the last episode, the last show I did like 2 months ago. The host said the same thing. He was like, "I keep seeing black shapes flying through your kitchen." I said, "That's what you'll see all through here because they love to be a part of this."
I wouldn't be surprised if they joined. Sadly, we've been doing like a little gaming series on my show as well, and been letting them play with the REM pod while play my games, and they decided to kill the battery. So got to get them a new battery for that one. But do you have any haunted items?
Not that I know of. Um, I'm not. I don't have anything that I know of because I tend to not go to certain places like Goodwill, things like that, because I do, I always joke with people about, that's, you go to Goodwill and you see that beautiful prom dress or the wedding dress. And then you're like, well, how did that happen? So I always make up a story about, what happened to that bride, right? And then,
Well, I'll tell you a quick little funny story about when I was a kid. Now, I still live in this small little town that I lived back then, and my grandpa, rest in peace, but he gave me this like doll that was the size of me, and it was wearing a wedding dress. And I always felt like there was something attached to that doll. And I already had experiences with, I don't know if you know the Hat Man, but
Yes.
I was having experiences with him at that time. There was always a little girl who would sit on the end of my bed as well. But then that doll, there was just something about that doll. I never saw her spirit or anything, but it creeped me out, and I would see her like move sometimes. And at this time, I was really, really young, so I was scared of
Oh
everything,
yeah.
especially when you're having the Hat Man and demonic entities mess
Oh
with you.
wow.
Um, but later on in life, uh, not even like 2 years ago, now that was a long time, but I'm saying like 2 years ago, uh, I went on eBay and I ran across her doll, the same exact doll, and I just have the urge to buy her, but she's like $500, and I'm not trying to put that down.
Don't blame me there.
But at the same time, it's like, do I want those memories?
Exactly. And I think about that too, is because I used to go yard sailing all the time. And I usually didn't buy a lot, but people I went with usually did. And then I started thinking, haunted objects. I read a couple good books on haunted objects, and it's just kind of amazing to think like what is out there that we don't even know that has so much energy that they bring it into their home, and then all of a sudden stuff happens, and they're like, "What happened?" And it's like because you bought something with bad energy.
And the craziest thing that my husband has accidentally brought in home was when I was pregnant with our first child. Um, he was walking because we were really young at the time, irresponsible. We didn't have a car and stuff. So he was walking, and I think it was like to get me Dairy Queen. And there was this yard sale going on. I was always complaining about my back, still do to this day. And he gets me this massager, this back massage pad, brings that home. First thing I was like, oh yeah. But then it was like, there's something weird about this massage pad. And then later on that night, I see this woman. She has long black hair, and she's standing in the doorway. And I was living at my grandma's house, so I know that wasn't something that was there previously. Um, and I'm looking at her, and she's looking at me, and she starts running up to me.
Oh my gosh.
I start freaking out. I start screaming. Lynn, my husband, he comes running in the room. What's wrong? What's wrong? I tell him what happens. He's like, oh my God, are you okay? Yeah. Anyways, we go to sleep that night, and we're both dreaming. And then all of a sudden, we both wake up, and we're freaking out, and we're trying to tell each other about our dream. And it ends up being that we had the exact same dream
Oh, wow.
where our dream was all black, like couldn't see anything, but all you could hear was radio static.
Oh,
It was,
wow.
it sounded like somebody
Oh,
had a TV with static on just bursting in the ears.
goodness. Wow, that gave me goosebumps. I got goosebumps right now.
Do you? Yeah.
I do because that's like to have the simultaneous dream. I've heard of that, but never. It's usually never like two people together. It's like you have one and your friend has one in California. I've heard of those. I've never heard of like simultaneous next to each other. That is wow. That is beyond freaky.
Yeah, yeah. And it happens like sometimes now, we did have something follow us home from the Devil's Tramping Ground.
Oh, very nice.
And it is something bad. I've been pushed around in this chair while trying to edit the video. Uh,
Oh,
it really targets my husband now because it knows it can't mess with me. I'm too
right.
strong-willed.
Have you ever tried to get anybody in there to try and cleanse your house?
Well, I can do it, but it's at the same time, it's mm. you
Are
know,
you are you afraid for your children, or is it not?
it hasn't messed with them yet, but there were some. some concerns in the beginning when we didn't know exactly if it was the doll or something from the tramping
Mm,
ground. Because
right.
at this, we had just got her too right before we went to the tramping ground. So trying to figure out if it was her or the thing that followed us. Now, the thing that follows us is I noticed is that it's not always here. For some reason, it does come and go. Um, I think really I think it's interested in me. It's told me to go back there multiple times.
Wow.
So I think that really I think it's just likes me.
Mm, okay.
And I think it doesn't like my husband though, because our first experience at the tramping ground, he passed out 3 times.
Jeez.
Um, he's heard and felt touching and felt like he's going to throw up or pass out at home sometimes. And he's only home during the weekend now. So just imagine.
Wow. So you're by yourself 5 days a week?
Yeah, with the babies.
Oh,
Because he
goodness.
works out of town.
Wow.
And so, but the freakiest thing though, now, this isn't my word, this is his, because I just know I was asleep. But he says that one night he felt this really dark presence in the room. And I ended up waking up because I felt like he was up, you know?
Hmm.
Um, so I ended up waking up and I asked him what was wrong. He was like, there's something like really dark in this room, in the room right now. I couldn't feel anything. Like, I didn't feel no bad presence at all. So it was literally just targeting him. And he said that I had woke up in my sleep and grabbed his hair and started growling.
Jeez. Oh,
I
man.
was I was like, I did not do that.
Oh.
He was like, yeah, you did. You sat up, grabbed my hair, and started growling. I was like, no, no, go back to sleep. You're sleeping right now. But I was sleeping, so I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. See, that's the thing is like, and that's one of the reasons that I wrote my book is I wanted to help people because I knew a lot of people that use the Ouija board and they shouldn't have. And I was just talking to somebody the other day that said all this stuff's happening and they dabbled. I said, well, that's your first mistake. You can't dabble in this stuff because that's what's going to happen. And like even just going to like passing a cemetery, they don't know how these things work. They can follow you home no matter what. And even if you tell them not to, that they're not going they're like human, they're not going to listen. Some of them
Mhm.
won't because I've had attachments and I've told them, I said, you can't be with me, leave me alone. Didn't stop them. They still came along.
Exactly.
So
And if they're, I know as far as demonic attachments, because my husband does have one,
mm,
they'll pretend to go away for a while.
right, right.
And then as soon as you think they're away, they're right back.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
can you tell me more? Like what all have you experienced? Did you ever go on any paranormal investigations other than living in a home?
Yes, I did actually. And for some reason, I don't know why I did this. I wasn't thinking clearly, I suppose. But on my dust jacket, I said that I've never been on a paranormal investigation. What I meant to say is that I haven't been with a team. I've done plenty solo, and I wasn't even thinking about that when I wrote that. That was like a huge mistake and everything. But yeah, I've been on. I do a lot of solo investigations, and so I've captured voices. I've gone to cemeteries. Different places. And actually, I was working on a second book on battlefield ghosts. And as you well know, Virginia's got a ton of battlefields, and that's where I was hitting was Virginia because I was actually living back in Virginia. I moved here about 4 years ago, so I was living up in Northern Virginia. So they had, I hit Antietam and Gettys. I haven't gone to Gettysburg yet, but I need to go there. But 3 or 4 or 5 Manassas and Virginia, I was getting some great captures and just really creepy feelings. And as luck would have it, the computer I was using decided to blow up and I lost all my data.
Oh.
So I have to go and redo everything. But I actually had a lot of good. I actually talked to some park rangers that had experienced stuff off the record. They wouldn't. They couldn't. They're not allowed to talk about these things. This is funny. But off the record, they told me some great stories I was able to include if I changed their name.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I've been on a lot. I haven't done any lately, just because just life happens. Things have gotten busy. I need to get back to doing some more because I live in a good area where there's unfortunately a lot of death, and there's a lot of people, people drowning at the beaches,
Oh
car
yeah.
accidents, things like that. This is a very old area too, so they have a lot of older buildings and houses and things like that. So
Y'all
yeah, I need to get back to that.
and people in Virginia can't drive, y'all. Just so y'all know. So,
You're not in Virginia now?
oh no. I moved back from Virginia about it's been a while. I didn't realize time flew by that fast.
Where are you now? What state?
I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, okay. All right.
So right below.
Okay.
Um,
What
I think
part?
um I'm near Fayetteville.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to live in Roanoke Rapids.
I used to live there. Look, we have so much in
Uh,
common.
I know that place was I hated that place, but I actually had one cool experience that happened in an old mill house that I lived in. But other than that, I only spent like 7 months there and
Roanoke
moved.
Rapids was actually the first place that I remember having experiences at.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Um, I think my very first experience was we lived in this little neighborhood in Roanoke Rapids, and it was a two-story house. And I lived in this one room, and it was like the longest room for some reason in the house, and it was upstairs. And I would always see this little boy, and he would run across the floor in my room. But I was scared of him because I used to watch Chucky all the time. So when I would see him, I would think of Chucky.
I could see where that would, yeah, that definitely freak you out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was in like maybe first grade. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, no, no. That's fine. Yeah, 'cause, yeah. North Carolina's got. Have you ever done the Brown Mountain Light? You ever look? You ever done that?
Not yet, but that is going to be one of the places I go to.
Yeah, because like I said, North Carolina, that's one of the good things. A lot of haunted places. That
Yeah.
was like and I unfortunately wasn't able to see a lot of that when I was living there. But yeah, it was just that paper mill was horrible, and I was literally getting physically sick. And
Oh.
I just was like, I don't like it here, and we just moved. But yeah, I lived there almost a year.
Um, oh, I heard somebody talk. They said
Behind
shh.
you, behind you.
It was in the earphone, so I think it was you.
Oh, wow. Yes, somebody doesn't like me talking bad about North Carolina. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they were like shh. So
I
I'm
didn't
pretty
do
sure that
that.
the microphone caught that.
Sorry.
Okay, well, I guess we're just gonna go ahead and start wrapping it up. Um, and we're gonna talk more about your book. You gathered all your experiences and got them down in a book. Can you tell us more about your book? Can you tell us where they can get it again and if they want it to purchase and read your own experience for themselves?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, it starts with like I said, the footsteps when I was 5, and it ends in about 2018, when actually it got published. So I'm actually working on part 2, which is from 2018 until now, because I've actually had more experiences and different experiences that are more non-paranormal, but I don't know what you want to call them, but they're more I don't know, they're more psychic, I guess, kind of thing. So it's almost like I've evolved a little bit. I mean, I still have, like, as you have seen and heard tonight, I still have that, but I've had other things like, I'll think of a song and I'll play it on the radio. I'll think of somebody I haven't thought about in years, and they'll email or call me. Things like that. So that's ramping up. Things like that. So I'm having a lot of those experiences now. But in between that, yeah, like I said, I think 5 different states. where I had all these paranormal experiences, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia, Maryland, Chicago, Illinois. So just pretty much, and again, being an empath, I think of myself as a, the motel signs that say vacant. That's kind of what I am. I'm a beacon, and they say, "Oh, he can see and hear us, so we'll go over here." So that's kind of like somebody actually said I was a ghost magnet, and
Um, yeah, I get that a lot as well. I
so
understand.
yeah, I guess I can see that. But yeah, I'm working on my second book. Hopefully, it'll be finished soon, and you can get that at Amazon. And you can get it at ozarkmountain.com. That is my publishing company. And they're having their big UFO conference coming up next month. So if anybody wants to go to Arkansas and talk about UFOs, I've never been, but I heard it's a great conference. And I encourage everybody to go out there to see that. I'm going to try and get out there maybe next year to do that. But again, it's called Ghosts and Me, and it's chronicling about 30 something years of my life with the paranormal. And I continue to have experiences, as everyone can see and hear tonight.
And if people wanted, do you still investigate to this day?
Yes, yes.
So if people wanted to find you and if they wanted to see any of your spookiness, where can they follow you at?
They can follow me on, well, if anybody wants to talk about anything, that have to be paranormal, they can reach me at kkillenbt, kkillenbt at gmail.com. I always welcome people to email me, and I love hearing from people that have the same experiences or anything. I've done so many things in my life that it's just, we can go off on a tangent about a lot of things. So if you want to drop me a line, you can always hit me there, and we can talk. I do have an Instagram account. It's Irish Kev, IRISHKEV 7147. They can talk to me there. And if you look up Kevin Killen in Facebook, you can find me there as well. So those are the three places that you can find me. But the K Killen, the email is usually the one I respond to better.
Okay, awesome. And with that being said, I want to thank you for coming in and joining in on this podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
And I will see you later. Stay in contact.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.